On the edge of town, past the old oak tree, there's a little shop just for you and me. Handcrafted steel, where the leather meets a working man's dreams all in one piece. Scout barks twice by the wooden door, greets each guest on the creaky floor. Knife maker's hands make the blade so fine, every cut and carve a true design. Ridge runner blades in the heart of town, where the sparks fly up and the sun goes.
What's up, Mr. Ben? Everyday Gear, legend of knife sales and EDC. What is up, man?
I don't know about legend.
Legend. Hey, we all can be legends.
Yeah. I don't know about what yardstick that is being measured by, but it's about 2.5 feet short of a yard. But I
Oh,
am
don't play
surrounded.
yourself down because, listen, I'll say it. We've done some of the coolest stuff in the knife world this year. I mean, I'll just say it. We've done some of the coolest collaborations on the freaking planet. Legend.
We have done the Edgemont. So
Yep.
there's my Edgemont, which is super duper cool. Obviously, that's black feather Taylor grinds,
Yeah.
and it's exotic material with some
Exotic.
glow rocks in there,
Oh, yeah.
and that's my personal one there. So this
Those
is
glow
not for
rocks
sale.
we sourced from the vape shop next door. Then we just found them laying out on the ground, and they were glowing. But we had to keep everybody safe. We had to encapsulate them somehow. So
It's radioactive aquarium rocks. That's what it is. Like every time I
oh,
pick this knife up, it takes like a few minutes off my life.
yeah,
So radiation.
but you
Um,
enjoy it nonetheless.
it's
So
hey, looking good is its own reward, and
that's it.
may have a price. I do have a lot of. I have because of this thing that you roped me into here super late
Yeah,
at night. I like threw a bunch of plastic tubs around here that I could grab things, in case you
yeah.
try to put me on the spot.
Oh, yeah.
So I have
Well,
a lot of weird things sitting here. So
yeah. I thought we could talk a little bit about. So if you guys, rewind. If you guys that watch Ridge Runner Blades, especially the YouTube channel, this is my good. Wait, it's backwards. No, I can't ever do this. This guy. No, this guy.
I don't know
I
what's
can't do it. That one. He is a good friend of mine, and he owns a cool knife shop called Everyday Gear. But he doesn't just sell knives; he sells some really cool EDC gear, just a myriad of stuff. It's really cool. I think, and sells some of the finest folders I think um, out there right now. I have a couple laying here in front of me that I bought from Ben. Some really cool. So we deal in a lot of small maker fixed blade stuff. Ben deals in a lot of small maker folder stuff, which is really really cool. Um, they've been at him and his wife Angela. They've been at this for some time, and I think they both enjoy it as much as the other, which is really really rare. You have your own minister of finance. That's
I
what
do.
we call
That's
Angela.
her official title.
Yeah.
And she was the 2025 Employee of the Year recipient
There you go.
at Everyday Gear because we don't have any employees, so by default.
Yeah,
She won.
employee of the year.
Volunteer State Collectibles actually printed that for me as kind of as a joke, but we've been leaving it out. It's
Yeah,
pretty funny,
that is
but no,
that's
she has a Holt Morpheus, which is she's got her own 40 slot box over there now that
yeah,
she puts all that stuff in, and so she's got a pretty cool collection of stuff. I can't get to it right now; it's on the other side of the room over there, but she's got some pretty cool stuff now, and she's kind of
yeah.
got into it. I basically dragged her into it, I guess you could say. So she enjoys it now, but
Yeah,
um, had a limited sort of interest in EDC and
Mhm.
pocket knives. To be quite frank, I'm pretty much a Spyderco Benchmade guy,
Yeah.
and I had Bark Rivers and Lon Humphreys and stuff like that, and maybe some Spartan fixed blades, and
Mhm.
that was kind of it. I didn't have I had a bunch of slip joints. I had some
Yeah.
Kershaw folders, and
Mhm.
but I didn't have I didn't really get bit by I don't know how to put it, but the small maker bug,
Yeah.
like the Ryan Manser,
Mhm.
3-leg dog with the stabilized maple burl,
Oh, yeah.
that kind of stuff. This is what really this got me.
Yeah.
At Blade Show last year in Atlanta, this is my first pickup. I ran in the
Yeah.
door, ran straight to that booth and bought this. Um,
Well,
saw it on their Instagram. Super nice. And this guy's in this 3-leg dog made in South Africa. And
yeah.
then I got two different sizes. That's the H4 standard. It's a little smaller one here, but look at that. That wood inlay is just really something.
Yeah. I mean, I have totally loved mine. I'll tell you that. This is my 3-leg dog. I don't know what model it is. I do use and abuse these things just like I do I don't abuse them to the point I do fixed blades for sure. I'm not opening up chili cans with it. But they do get used and abused, and I'll tell you one thing I really like. Ben carries stuff that is, everything from $50 to, thousands of dollars. You have a very wide gamut of stuff. But one thing I really like about what you do, you really help curate the somebody's knife buying experience when it comes to a lot of these folders. A lot of guys I imagine are maybe stepping up their game a little bit. Maybe they're coming out of, Kershaw's or, what Benchmades or whatever they're wanting to take that next leap. Well, they don't know what to do. I mean, a lot of times they don't understand like what makes this knife better than what I already have, right? What makes it different? I get that a lot. Like, why would I spend $350 on this knife? Well, my Gerber is, you know, I had that in the military, you know, and not knocking Gerber, they make some cool stuff. It's just that a lot of people don't understand until they really get into it. Like, what is that next leap, and what does it actually mean? What are you actually getting in return? And one thing I really enjoy about the smaller maker stuff is I was talking to a knife maker the other day about it. You're literally buying a piece of this person's life. This is their art. This is their, I don't ever want to brush over that fact that when you buy this, you're buying a piece of this dude's life. He took a piece of his time. He took a little bit of his creativity out of the bucket that he's got. He made this, and you get the opportunity to purchase it. And that, it's like buying a piece of art to me. And I
Yeah, I've
really,
got
really
a
enjoy that aspect of this business. Because I mean, I understand what it takes on the back end of the equation to make all that happen. And it's a lot of work and a lot of creativity. And, good Lord, how much time you spend hunting down materials and this and that to do cool stuff. And collectively even, it's a lot of work to pull off something like this.
Yeah, and I mean the customer sees the end result of what we
Yeah.
figured out that works. What they don't see is the the
Yeah.
failures, the
Yeah.
cutting room floor. But
Yep.
what I think it comes down to is appreciation of what it took to make that thing come into
Mhm.
existence. So
Yep.
for me, it's like the engineering aspect of it. I mean, let's
Yep.
face it, knives have been around for almost since people have been around.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the
Mhm.
first tools that we made was a sharpened rock, basically,
Yep.
or
Mhm.
obsidian. So that being said, is there anything new under the sun? Well, it depends. Sometimes there's two
Mhm.
old things that combine to make a new thing.
Mhm.
Sometimes we get truly new things, right?
Yep.
Innovative things, right? Um, but to your point, when it comes to the craftsmanship of what is involved, like this Jason Clark with the
Yep.
bombing range, I mean
Yeah.
that's hand milled. That took some effort, you know.
It's a yeah.
Even did the
So
pocket clip, you know.
And then
So
just the time and the takes to have the idea to do something like that as a maker,
yes,
to
yeah.
do something new and fresh, it takes a lot of effort to come up with something like that,
It
and
does, and then I think part of it is too is that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, right?
yeah,
Like, and there's one knife that really, one of the many knives that exemplifies that though is this Brad Zinker. This is an
yeah,
Urban Trapper. It's a grabback dam steel, and if you look at it's like
oh,
a
yeah,
piece of jewelry.
yeah,
Absolutely, it's an incredible piece. And the thing is, it weighs nothing, right? It's
mhm,
absolutely beautiful, but you can imagine how much time it took. You know,
yep,
that just took a lot of machining and
mhm,
capability. And there's so many little things about this, not just the fit and finish, but the action is
yep,
second to none. It's not like anything else that I've got. It's very special in that regard. Um, there's a lot of things that I have that are just very special in that respect. And
yeah,
so I guess what I'm saying is that it took, for many of these guys, it took a lifetime to be able to
yeah,
produce something like this, 20, 30 years of effort to be able to do this, come up with
yep,
this. And maybe this even was part of this was 30 years of some other person's life
mhm,
that they
yep,
put in to get to that point.
mhm,
So I think there has to be a lot of appreciation for it, like, um, this is a Carver custom, like a mini waif, and it's a really cool design too. And it's a liner lock, really cool blade shape. Um, there's so many. This again, this is another custom knife. I mean, I've got quite a few over here in my collection of stuff, but there's something about the custom knives, and I mean, even like a fixed blade. This is this is actually a black feather. This is a
mhm,
Uari,
yep.
and I don't think he makes these anymore, unfortunately.
Not
Um,
that particular, design, no. It's
yeah,
I think it's being, I think there might be a second version, but, yeah,
yeah.
that's the OG URI. Yep,
It's so light. I mean,
yep,
it's perfect. It
yep,
is perfection in a fixed blade. And when you look at it, there's another thing too, and this is especially true of fixed blades, and I guess folders too. Until you hold it in your hand,
mhm,
it's really hard to like. There's so many YouTube videos that are like, "Oh, this is a great
yeah,
knife. You need to go buy this knife." Well, okay, but until you hold it in your hand,
yeah,
until you are the one that experienced like what is a perfect detent. This is a
yep,
Johann Vanderwalt JB3. That's a perfect detent.
yeah,
Perfect detent, right?
mhm,
And that's the thing. Like I had a friend of mine. His name's William. He's explaining to me like how important detent is.
yeah,
And I was like, oh, I really like drop shut stuff, and
mhm.
none of it had much of a detent. And then eventually I understood
What that meant.
why the perfect detent makes a
Mhm,
difference. So I think part of it is the knife collecting or enjoyment is a bit of a journey. You have all these different phases, right?
yeah,
And the Whatnot app is basically like everybody goes through the early acquisition phase. I
right,
don't know what I like. I don't know what's out there.
yeah,
And for me, it was like the first Kubi titanium. It was like
mhm,
it was a Kubi is made by, it's a Hyperion, Jelly
yeah,
Jerry design. He's young. I think he's Vietnamese, if I remember correctly,
yeah,
a designer. And I got this thing, and I was like, "Wait a minute! I spent under $200, and I got this
mhm,
thing that is micro milled titanium with a
yeah,
flame finish on it, S35VN frame lock. This quality with this little money. Wait a minute! How is this possible? And
yep,
then as time goes on, you start to dial in your preferences, if that makes
mhm,
sense.
yep,
And unfortunately, it costs quite a bit of money and a lot of swiping on the Whatnot app before you start.
yeah,
You kind of, your collection grows, and then becomes the difficult part of, as a knife seller like yourself and me, we run into a little bit of a paradox, right?
yep,
Which is, if we're successful in helping people on their knife journey,
mhm,
how are we able to then be able to get them the really hard to get stuff, the stuff
yep,
that's almost impossible to source?
yep.
So it's almost like you work yourself out of business in a way.
Sure. Yeah, in a way. Yeah, and you're right, and I think that's the beauty of the journey too, like, to be able to help somebody find what they like, I love that. I love getting people emailing me back saying, oh my gosh, this is the best knife I've ever bought, or this is exactly what I was looking for. Like that just make honestly, that just makes my day. You know, you don't hear from, especially like on Whatnot. I get more of this from my website probably, but on the Whatnot app, I don't you don't hear back from a lot of customers so much in my you do, but in the grant there's so many, you know, in that ratio, I don't hear back as much. But when I do, it really makes my day. You know, I think the struggle, like with starting that knife journey, almost is you've got like, especially like with Whatnot, and I'm not knocking it by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel like a lot of times people get stuck in this whole swiping thing where they're buying and they're buying and they're buying, but they don't really know what they're buying. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, they may start with a Wardtech or, you know, M-Tech or something super cheap, and that may convert them into, like, buying nicer things. Um, but I'm all about people getting what they want. Like, what do you really want? What are you really after in a knife? Like, what are you gonna carry? Like, don't buy it. Even if it's cheap, don't just buy it, you know, just because it was cheap. It's not a good reason. It's not a good reason.
Yeah,
But
it's
I
kind
think
of like I remember years ago I went to the grocery store, okay? And I like a deal.
yeah,
I'm just wired that way, right?
yeah.
So they had like these flats of uh of canned vegetables, okay? And they were like 15, 20 cents a can
Mhm.
for, I forget what it was like beets or something. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, we don't really eat beets, but I was like, that's just too good of a deal to pass up.
Yeah,
And they also had some green beans for like 20 cents a can. And I was like, oh, what a savings.
yeah,
And so I was focused on the fact that I was getting a really good deal, not necessarily focused on the fact that are we gonna consume that, or
yeah,
and I think a lot of times what happens is people are like, oh, this is such a good deal. And so the fact that it's
mhm,
such a good bargain, it's like I would rather somebody not be deal shopping, but be hyper
yeah,
selective about what they're getting and get the thing they really want. But then the question is getting them there, and that's hard because as a
yeah,
seller, we operate on margin. It is what it
mhm,
is. I'm a little luckier in that regard because this is not my main source of income.
sure,
I do this as a hobby. But that being said, I think that's the difficulty as a seller is like I want to try to control the frenzy of I'm getting a deal and be more consultative, and that's harder. It takes
yeah,
longer. But at the end of the day, what I think is a great knife may not be to somebody else. Like, for example, sometimes it's hard. Like, if I'm trying to sell a knife, do you really want to say anything negative
mhm,
about it? Well, I do.
I
I
do,
mean,
yeah,
or I just don't carry it at all. There's
yeah,
that, right? I might give it away if I get something
yeah,
in and I'm like, all right, well, that's destined for a giveaway. But even really expensive knives that are wonderful knives,
mhm,
also you have to be mindful of it. Like, for example, this is a hog house. All right, this is a what was this, a California Custom Knife Show, I want to say last fall.
mhm,
This is a Model T, and it is awesome. Okay, it is absolutely insane.
yeah, I love that
but
knife.
but here's the thing though. Okay, the lock bar is sensitive to pressure. You got to make sure you're off that frame lock.
Mhm,
If you're on that frame lock at all, it is not going to want to open. So if you have big stubby fingers, you know,
yep,
this is a concern. If you stay off that lock bar, it's fine. If you put the smallest amount of pressure though on that lock bar at all, it might
yep,
as well be locked. So that's just a consideration. And a lot of people just can't get their fingers off of there to make it do what it
mhm,
needs to do. So your size of your fingers, your hands, all that kind of stuff,
yeah,
your level of dexterity, all of that. And maybe you're just like, well, I like a frame lock, but I don't want it to have an issue. Well, I can put my fingers all over this Grimsmo Rask
yeah,
and it fires just fine. It's not as sensitive.
yep,
They're both awesome knives. They're both frame locks and they both have incredible action. So the question is like, that's a personal choice. It's kind of like, I can't pick out a pair of shoes for you.
right,
I mean, that's something that you need to kind of pick out for yourself. So that's the conundrum. right? It's like,
Yeah,
how do we guide people? And all we can really do is just show it to the best of our ability,
sure.
and then hope that it's going to fit the bill. But I don't know if everybody gets to this point where they're like, I'm hunting down a Grimsmo
Yeah,
wrasse. I think most people get to a certain point. I'm not saying like there's a lot of stuff that's like, for example, if I can find I have this, like, there's some things that just they're so unique
yeah,
from a design perspective, like a Winter Blade Factor B4.
yeah.
This one happens to be customized by Collins, Crazy
Mhm.
Creations, I think it is, something like that. So it's really crazy. But I mean, the Factor is such a different. It's
Yeah.
so different. You know what I mean? It's just the deployment methods are very different. It uses
So
magnets
wild,
for
huh?
the detent. It's just cool, right? So anyway, what I'm saying is very, very, very cool stuff. Um, but uh, but I would say that some of these things draw me in, and some of
Mhm.
them do it for me, some don't. You know,
Yeah.
so that's a very personal thing. Like, for example, the ironically named Peace Neighbor. This is an
Mhm.
awfully stabby knife to be called a Peace
Yeah.
Neighbor. Peace Neighbor is the designer. It's that Hollywood actor
Mhm.
Sean, his name I think is, but this is the Avalon. This is one of the new releases from Protec, and it's very cool. It's a big knife, but because it's not large, it's not thick, even though it's long. Even if you have
Yeah.
smaller hands, this is not a problem to deploy. But anyway, what I'm getting at is that if somebody said, "Well, I don't want a knife that has over a so and so inch blade,"
Yeah.
well, that depends on the geometry of the rest of the knife. Does that make sense? Like
Yep.
the thickness of it here, how wide it is.
Mhm.
So there's a ergonomics discussion to be had about everything, and
Sure.
because people vary so much, it's really hard to dial that in. So you know, fixed blades I think are another place where it's really tricky.
It is. It is
I think
tricky.
you
I mean,
navigate that. You
it
navigate that so well, though. I think.
it's not I mean, in the fixed blade world, in my opinion, you're not dealing with so many variables, right? I mean, you're dealing with handle size, handle length, overall length, cutting surface length, that sort of thing is usually what somebody is like if somebody has, like, a specification or what they want, they'll even say, like, "I want a knife that is" and I think to go back to what you were saying about, like, people you don't know until you have it in your hand, right? But I feel like having live selling is the closest you're gonna ever get. You know what I'm saying? Like, you rather than somebody looking at this knife on a website and saying, "I don't know if I'm gonna like that or not," and you read the specifications, you really don't know because you're not seeing it live. You can't ask a question live and say, "What does it feel like?" What glove size are you?" I think that's an important thing because everybody like, if Taylor's showing a knife, good God, I mean, if anything looks small, he's got huge hands. But if I'm showing something, it's gonna be like a large, extra large glove size. It's gonna be very more normal to a dude's hands. And so I think knowing all that stuff when you're looking at something, but when it comes to somebody looking for a fixed blade, I can ask, well, what do you it's really what is your purpose behind it? Like if you're wanting an outdoorsman knife, if you're wanting an outdoor knife, okay, we can do that. But just because you want a under a 4-inch blade, that's not enough information, especially in here. Like, because, well, do we need to look at something flat ground? Are you going to be using it to skin a deer with? Are you going to be using it to EDC? Or are you going to be using it to do bushcraft work with? There's all these different variables. And so I think, and the customer base, I love my customers they're awesome. I mean, and the more they learn about what actually am I looking for, like that, I think that just speeds the process up, and it helps me instead of pulling out 50 different models that fit the size specification, like knowing what are you wanting to do with it? Like, what's the purpose behind it? And that helps me narrow it down, and people don't have the overload. You can show them, like, 5 knobs instead of 50, and I think that helps out a lot, with fixed blades. But, the cool thing about the knife world is there's something for everybody. I really think, like, there is literally enough. I mean, what my wife carries, she carries a Primitive Woodsman pocket Tonto most of the time. and she's been carrying that knife for. I've had that knife redone at least 10 times. Josh has redone it like 8 or 10 times. Like Taylor's redone it a couple times. The poor thing just gets beat to crap. It's just awful. It's just this beautiful maple handled pocket tonto that gets used on the farm. But it's the perfect knife for her. Like that knife just works perfect for her. And then she carries her little Microtechs and her Spydercos and stuff like that. But finding what people like, is, and then you start learning the customer even. I mean, have you not realized that? Like, you start learning what customers like, and you almost can guarantee, like, you're gonna love this. Like, if just from your previous history of buying stuff, you're like, you're gonna love this knife. And so, I don't know. It's I like that more slow paced where you can just really drill into what somebody's after. Because I mean, the worst thing is they get it and they have buyer's remorse. I hate that. You know how that feels. You get something and you have buyer's remorse. Like, that is just avoiding that at all costs to me is important.
Yeah, and I struggle with that a little bit. Well, no, that's not true. I struggle with that a lot. And what I mean by that is it's okay for me to go through the process of buying a whole bunch of stuff and then figuring out, okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and then selling
Mhm.
off that stuff and then taking a little bit of a hit on it. It is what it is. And I have a whatnot stream, so I have the luxury of being able to churn through a bunch of stuff,
Yeah.
And basically, the way I look at it is what I lose is the price of an education, right? I got to
Yeah.
experience that. I got to learn a little bit about it. The mistake I made is not stopping along the way to make YouTube content for
Mhm.
everything that came through. That's what I
Yep.
should have done, is make a short
Yeah.
video to say, this is what I like, this is what I don't like.
Mhm.
Someday, eventually, what people will be able to do is plug in their collection of stuff, you know,
Yeah.
into an AI machine of
Mhm.
some kind, and then basically, based on the set of preferences that it gathers about you, it's able to
Mhm.
recommend,
Yeah.
a certain thing for you. And it could be that it's simply, I would like a very expensive fidget that's
Yeah.
also sharp. That's
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
because for a lot of people, that's kind of what they're looking
Yeah.
for. But I think part of it is, and the part that I struggle with is there's no store. You can't go in my area. You can't go
Yeah.
to a store and pick up a whole bunch of Vosteeds. You can't
No.
do it. So, what's the solve for that? I think what we should do is that we should look into the formation of knife clubs and things like that, where
Mhm.
people can take their collection of stuff
Mhm.
and have like a swap aspect
Yeah.
of it, right?
Mhm.
And do things where people can actually pick up these things. Because when I first started on the whatnot, quite frankly, it was like somebody would show me a really great knife, and I'm like, I can't go see that anywhere. Like, I
Yep.
have to buy that thing in order to experience it.
Yep.
You're locked into buying. You can't
Mhm.
just go to any brick and mortar store and just walk in there and say, "Hey,
No.
can I see a Vosteed raccoon? Can I see a Kirby?
Mhm.
Sorry, a Kubi, Kirby,
Yeah.
a Kubi. Can I see a Kubi Hydro?" I'm like,
Yeah.
huh? Like they don't have that to show you.
Yeah.
They can't. That's a problem, and so you have to buy it to get to have it in your hand. And I
Mhm.
think better coordination and more local meetups
Yep.
of knife aficionados is the way to go. And then I find a lot of times I was like, man, I really want that ABC knife, whatever it is, right?
Sure.
And I was coveting that for a while, for like
Mhm.
6 months. I was like, boy, I really want that. And then I would go somewhere and hang out with a couple of knife guys or whatever. And they would say, well, I own one of those, and they show it to me. And I was like, yep, not feeling it. I
Yep.
wasted 6 months of my life looking for one on Reddit to try
Mhm.
to buy it, when in fact, that was really, it turned out, this thing ergonomically doesn't work, whatever
Yeah.
it was. And so I don't know how to solve that problem. The only way to do it is just to carpet the world with knives. But that's not really a good solution. And I think my goal as a knife seller, if I can, is to try to demo it as much as I can, to
Mhm.
try to mitigate, I
Yeah.
should say, the amount of buyer's remorse that's out there, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And that's not really, maybe that's not the most conducive to profit. Okay. But I think long term, I think if you look
Mhm.
to trajectory of a business, right? if I'm looking for something, for my retirement in 15 or 20 years, let's say,
Yeah.
then I think a long-term trajectory that works, right? Because
Yeah.
you're doing right by that customer for the long
Mhm.
term. And I think that's where the win is. And I think more brick and mortars that have a more diversified set
Mhm.
of things that they carry, right,
Yeah.
would also be helpful because there's just nowhere to go to see a lot of this stuff. So,
Yeah.
except for, but it's funny for us. This is a brave new world of live selling, right?
Sure.
To what extent that sellers only whatnot apps squander that opportunity is another discussion. Okay.
Yeah, that's
But
a
if
whole
you,
nother thing.
that's a whole
Mhm.
different ball of wax. But,
Mhm.
but what I'm saying is that, and I'm not saying sellers in the knife category, I'm thinking outside the knife
Yeah.
category, to be quite frank. I think sellers in the knife category, by and large, try to be consultative. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we're the
Sure.
most consultative, I would say, the most
Out of any
consultative selling
category.
category. Oh, by
Yeah, for
far. It's
sure.
not even funny. So,
Yeah.
but when outside of that, it's like,
Mhm.
here's some shoes, buy the shoes, start
Yep.
now, buy the shoes.
Mhm.
Okay, buy these shoes. It's like, I mean, no, I'm not picking on shoe sellers. I'm just saying it's just like this
Yeah.
run and gun kind of a thing. And it's, so at any rate, I guess what I mean is, the consultative aspect of it, I think.
Mhm.
But did you know in Asian markets, it's kind of fascinating, a much larger percentage of household purchases versus average family in some Asian markets actually is much, much higher. It's the majority in some cases of the purchases are done, like I think outside of like groceries and things like that, but like other goods are done via a live sale. So
Yeah,
it's interesting
it
because
is.
we're kind of behind the curve. I know it
We
sounds
are.
weird, but we're behind the curve in many Asian
Mhm.
markets. I think I want to say Korea, Japan, even
Mhm.
China to some extent. A lot of stuff they buy is actually from a live selling. Just a normal
Yeah.
way of them getting stuff, and for us, it's kind of this new thing,
New
right?
thing. Yeah.
So I hope that's. I think
Mhm.
for folks that consume like a lot of electronics and things like
Mhm.
that, the problem is that how long does it take to give a thorough examination of something when it's
Sure.
complex.
Mhm.
I think that's where you start to hit a diminishing returns, and you can't be consultative enough and sell enough to stay in business.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So it
Yep.
gets
Yeah.
complicated, and I don't have all the answers to that piece
Yeah.
of it. At the end of the day, the buyer has to know what they're getting ultimately and educate
Sure.
themselves as much as they can. But if I can run my stream like a YouTube video that you can
Yep.
occasionally interact, ask
Mhm.
questions, and buy something, then yay, we've
Yep.
succeeded. And so whether or not I get to stay in business is yet to be determined.
Yeah.
I guess the consumer will decide. But I'm trying. I think the cool thing is if we bring new and interesting
Yeah.
stuff. And this is an interesting. This is even this conversation is kind of interesting. We got two knife sellers,
Yeah.
which are technically competitors,
Sure. Yeah.
are having this conversation, which is I think that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. I've always said there is enough business for everybody. You don't have to be we don't have to be so cutthroat and so it's like, we're not in middle school anymore, man. Like, we don't have to have cliques, we don't have to have all this stuff. We can literally be we can all be and the thing about Whatnot now I'm not speaking to just Whatnot, I'm saying across the board, there's so many great knife stores. I mean, I talked to the owner of REC the other day. It kinda caught me off guard, but I've been a huge fan of their Spyderco exclusives.
Yeah,
Spyderco's
me
is what
too.
got me into knives. Spyderco knives, that's what got me into knives, and I love selling them because I like them. But I had at one point, I had every single exclusive that REC had ever put out, and a lot of them I bought after we started Ridge Runner. Like, this is not like, I don't subscribe to the fact that we all can't just get along and help each other out. If I don't have it, well, somebody else has got it. Let's just point them to let's get the customer what they want. Just be a good, decent person. That's all it is. You don't we don't have to play these competitive games with each other. That's not that's in that's just what I think. I would
Well,
rather
it could,
I would rather let's all work together to get the customer what they're after. But
and
I
the
know
customer
not everybody
appreciates
sees it
it.
that way, and, that's fine. Like, people do whatever they wanna do. It's not I but I subscribe to the fact that we all rising tides, everybody rises together.
Yeah.
Let's all work together, but that's not a very profitable, if you wanna be competitive, that's not a very profitable thing to do. It probably bites me in the butt a little bit business-wise. I don't know, maybe it doesn't. But I think it's like me and you, we talk every day pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not it doesn't have to be some weird I don't know. We're all in this together. Like, we're all trying to do the same thing, or I mean, I think some of us, I mean, a lot of people are. Some people are, are doing their own thing. But that's why I think, like, on the Whatnot platform, these community exclusives that happen, like that's great. Like, that's a fantastic way for everybody to kind of come together and do something fun. I've always thought that was cool. And but anyway, I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent there. One thing I really wanted to talk to you about, though, because it's in your name, is EDC. And what now, you are one of the most EDC guys I've ever met. It is impressive to me. I know you put more thought into your EDC than I do into the clothes I wear, because I wear the same thing every day. But you do a really good job of putting stuff together. And I kind of want you to talk a little bit about, what does EDC mean to you? What is that? What is When people see that word, I don't think a lot of people understand it so much. But I wanted to hear your thoughts on, what is EDC? What is that? And what does it mean to you?
Well, if you many many moons ago, there was a there was a denizen of a ancient civilization, and he fell into a crevice. I guess he was running from some. They're having a, I don't know, some kind of a fight or something. So he was wounded, and he fell into a crevice or somewhere in the Swiss Alps, and expired. And I think it was Utsi. I can't remember exactly what the,
Yeah.
yeah. So can't remember the exact name, but at any rate, they found this guy like miraculously preserved, and this dude had EDC. Okay, he had
He
like,
did.
he did. He had all kinds of little stuff. He had like a little knife, and he had all kind.
Mhm,
He had like a little bag of herbs and also the kind of stuff.
mhm.
Some of which had medicinal purposes and things like that. Much like I carry ibuprofen, and
Yeah.
band aids and Neosporin and things like that. It's part of who we are. Is part of it is, I grew up somewhat traditionally. Was in the Boy
Mhm,
Scouts, and there's the preparation being part,
mhm,
always be prepared, and all those kinds of things is, my goal. The way I look at it is, if you're going to be a person in the world, be a
mhm.
useful person in
Yeah.
the world. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So if my utility to the world is just to hold up my phone and say I can call some help,
Yeah.
then that really limits my utility as a human
Yep.
on the face of the planet, right? I should have tools, and I should know how to use them. They should have somewhere in my orbit.
Mhm,
I should have a flashlight. I should have
mhm.
some basic things, a screwdriver, something, a pry bar, pocket knife, handkerchief, something. What I'm getting at is that, you should know how to use tools, and you should have
Mhm.
tools, whatever those are, whether that's tools for your own defense of your family,
Yeah.
opening an Amazon package, fixing something. We were out of the country, my wife and I, and one of the expandable handles on one of our rolling suitcases broke, and it was broke in such a way that it was fixed up, it wouldn't
Oh, no.
collapse. It's causes problems
Mhm,
at the luggage check-in, let me tell you.
mhm.
And we're getting on a plane, right? So what are you going to have on you from a tool perspective? It kind of limits it. Well, I had a toolkit. I took all the screws out of it, collapsed that thing, away we went. And my wife's like, I get it now. I know why
Yeah.
I understand why you carry that stuff, because you have a airplane safe toolkit that you
Mhm.
can actually fix something. You can be part of the
Yeah.
problem, not just part of the solution, not just part of the problem, not just another
Right.
person standing around. So part of it is, my dad always had stuff. He had
Mhm.
change in his pocket for, in case you had to use a payphone, a handkerchief, pocket knife,
Yep.
cash. You have to have certain things. It's just part of being, like I said, a useful person
Yep.
is to have things and know how to use them. So that's
Well,
where
you're
it all
expecting
came
a
from.
lot out of people right now, being the useful person.
So I guess so. I mean, like I like, and I like it though. It's fun. Like, I can reach over here and grab like a Hank, like
Mhm.
so this is a Sageha, I guess
Yeah.
I'm not saying it right, Japanese wave Hank. And by the way, I also have an Urban EDC Co. Anso Toko that matches it.
I'm so glad I don't have to say all those words.
So yeah, I probably butchered all that. But the point is, it works. It comes
Yeah,
together. And like, by the way, it just so happens it also works really good with my Oz machine, my
sure.
Roosevelt. So anyway, the point is, I think that it's cool to be able to have Hanks. Hanks have a purpose.
Sure.
I like beads. Beads have a
Mhm.
purpose. Beads are cool. You can use beads to color code the zippers on a bag, so you know
Mhm.
what's in what pocket. You can do that with glow rhino, glow in the dark fobs. You have beads are somebody's work. You
Yeah.
know, like I got beads from Paracord Pandemonium. There's 12 different processes after that bead is turned on the lathe. Okay, and it looks like a bead. There's 12 a
Mhm.
12-step process to essentially polish that bead to get it to where he's happy with it
Sure.
and he can sell it. That's insane,
Mhm.
in a
To
good
be
way. Okay.
yeah.
It looks like a piece of glass and it's
Mhm.
resin. So what I'm getting at is that there's artisans like when Man Cave, Joe makes stuff. I mean, it's like perfectly square,
Mhm.
worry stones and things like that. It's incredible the stuff that he's able to do. And he's got a tremendous amount of practice at it.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate those things as art and they're
Yeah.
useful art. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Much like a
Yep.
knife can be useful art. But I mean, I have patches, beads. I'm into all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I think that, eventually it's like you have plenty of knives with like what else is out there. And then
Yep.
it gets kind of, there's the Starling gear, steel flame kind of stuff, you know what I mean? There's
Mhm.
JRW gear with the curators and stuff that people are
Yeah.
highly sought after. People camp out to get that stuff. They enter lotteries to be able to get
Mhm.
that stuff. I mean, it gets pretty competitive, quite frankly, just to be able
Yeah.
to get your hands on some of that stuff. You
Mhm.
wait for drops, you're logging in there trying to, buy this stuff when it drops. And
Mhm.
I think though that there's so much of it that even like the EDC trays that you make are really really super
Yeah.
cool. We can do the stuff. Vero makes these cool little
Mhm.
things I use for like just to catch alls. Like a little
Yeah.
little tool tray. All those things to me are part of that EDC, if you will, constellation of EDC stuff, right?
Sure.
And so I think it's just interesting because it takes it from just one aspect of it, which is a knife or what it have you,
Mhm.
and then it broadens that to all kinds of different things, and that really is cool to see. When I went to the California Custom Knife Show to see like these guys would be standing there, and I'm like, man, this dude is really hardcore EDC. He makes me look like an amateur because this guy's got like, you know, 100 really hard to get patches on, on his
Mhm.
bag and all sort of kind of stuff, and so the thing is, I think from a holistic perspective, what I didn't see on Whatnot was a holistic approach to EDC. It was
Yeah.
mainly like I'm going to flip these knives, and that's cool. There's a few sellers that did have what I'll call a holistic approach. They did sell a
Mhm.
plethora of different things. Um, but that's why I make our own custom, have Gondek make custom hanks,
Mhm.
have licensing for different patterns that match the knives, so that everything kind of comes together. Because what I realized was that when I wanted to get a hank or a pry bar or,
Mhm.
maybe like a little wallet or something like that, or a dump tray or what have you that matched the thing, like matching, by the way, this knife is like Danish and the
Yep.
handkerchiefs from Poland for crying out loud. So that's kind of
Mhm.
hard to source that,
Yep.
it's not easy. Whereas, what we do is we have like a dump tray, and you can buy all the pieces together, and it
Yeah.
all matches and which you can find it or what. I'm not trying to sell a bunch of stuff on here, so I'm not pulling all that out
Yeah.
and showing it to you. But my point is that I wanted it to be easy on the consumer to be
Yeah,
able to say, well, I want a matching pocket dump, and I can kind of arrange it there and say, here's what we have. It all
exactly.
matches. You swipe one time and you get it all, and you
Yeah.
don't have to wait for drops, and you don't have to try to find it on Etsy
Mhm.
or wherever. Just makes it easier. It reduces all that friction of
Yep.
purchasing it. So, but Jason, is really just I'm a dork and I'm into it. That's
Yeah.
all. I mean, that's the punchline is it's just either it does it for you or it doesn't. And just
Yep.
like anything else that you get into, if you're into firearms, for example, it's like, well, I like shooting service rifles, CMP matches.
Mhm.
And then you get into IDPA, and then you're like, ooh, I like USPSA. That's fun now. Next thing you
Yep.
know, you're doing steel challenge. It just, you kind of
It's
float
whatever you get
around.
into.
And
Yeah.
so your hobby doesn't, and then you get into reloading. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So you
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of like, and you're like, oh, I discovered night vision. Let's shoot some night matches.
Yeah.
It's your hobby, just like anything else,
Yep.
has an evolution in and of itself, and that's kind of EDC has a lot of space for that
Yeah.
evolution.
I never have been able to. I think because I carry so much stuff. I mean, by the time I put a gun on, a fixed blade, a folder, my insane amount of keys, wallet, and all that, I've never been able to carry a bag personally. Like I've tried it. Like I have a backpack I tote, my laptop and stuff like that around in. But as far as like having to eat, like I get why people have EDC pouches. Like, good lord, I mean, I would love to be able to have the brain to remember to get it when I leave. Like, that's the problem. It's like half the time, if it's not in my pockets, I ain't gonna have it. And so it's one of those things like I've always struggled with it a little bit. I've always wanted to be more into a lot of the EDC stuff. I find like for my EDC, it kind of spills over a little bit into other areas, like into my onto my desk or like things that I use every day. I'm only in certain places usually. And so I kind of have a duplicate of a lot of things in different places just so I have it, And but I've just never been able to like these guys, I have mad respect to them that can carry a like all the things. Like I don't know, maybe my pockets are just small. But I carry two cell phones, a wallet, keys, like all this stuff, and I'm like I can't put one more thing in there. It just won't fit. It should
Well,
be
the bushcraft
bring back
guys
the
will.
'90s in like cargo pants. Like,
We should have cargo pants. That would
yeah,
help. But the bushcraft guys have started carrying a lot of stuff around their neck, so they got
yeah.
like neck lanyards and stuff like that. Where sometimes they'll put like a fixie on there, but
Oh
like
yeah,
I've seen some of the little bushcraft Kelso setups. So
yeah,
you take like a little, what is that? That little Nuge wicket or whatever it is. I
yeah.
forget which one it is. It's the one with the burlap or the twine wrapped around the handle. So it's
Mhm.
real thin, and then they pack like they get like the little, I don't know, it looks like a small, like a mini Altoids tin, and then they stuff
Yep,
that with all kinds of stuff, and then they ranger band that to it. It's hanging around their neck, and it's like, what's that for? Like, what doesn't it do? Like, there's all
yeah,
kinds of doodads in there, lock picks and goodness knows what else. Like they can
yep,
start fires, pick locks, and fix things, and so um, I think that's the thing is you don't want to be loaded down like a pack mule. There's a point
yeah,
of diminishing returns, and what I've tried to do is like miniaturize,
yeah.
things to like one pocket, which I came
Mhm.
up with a zero feud cut
Yeah,
pouch, that had basically various things in it, and the margins are absolutely terrible, and it's so much
yeah,
work, and I don't make anything on it. But I've run that, I've put together a bunch of those and sold them
yeah.
like two or three times now. People love them.
Mhm.
They are a pain because I
Yeah,
can't source anything or have any kind of margin on it.
mhm.
Basically, in fact, I think the first iteration of that I paid everybody $10 to take one from me, but
Yep,
it is what it is. I enjoy doing it, and
yeah,
that's a big chunk of it is the enjoyment factor. But I think part of that journey is figuring out what is my tolerance for what I want to carry,
mhm.
what's important to me. We're not Jeremiah Johnson anymore. Okay. We
Yeah,
don't need, you know what I mean? Like although I will say that there's a lot in the EDC everyday carry
mhm.
stuff where bushcraft, as you well know, because
Yeah,
you know this better than I do. But like some of the Venn diagrams overlap,
Sure.
bushcraft and
Yeah.
EDC start to
Mhm.
overlap a little bit, and preparedness overlaps and self defense stuff. You know what I mean? It just kind of has this little nexus of things where, a lot of that stuff is like, oh, that's a good idea. I should
Yep.
somehow incorporate that because my daily needs dictate that. But if
Yeah.
you're on the farm, you're going to have different things that
Yep.
whether, if you're, feeding animals and stuff like that.
Yep.
You got to do certain things on the farm. You're messing around with a tractor or, trying to
Mhm.
feed a critter and this and that and the other. Whereas if my job is to take a key card and boop and go into an office
Yep.
building every day, that's a different, it's a
Yep.
completely different thing. I
Yep.
need different stuff on me.
Yep.
If I'm flying in an airplane every day, I get up, 3, 4 days out of the week and I
Mhm.
catch a bird somewhere. I can't carry all that stuff.
No.
I have to think about what am I carrying, what am I allowed to carry,
Yep.
what can I get away with, what's TSA going to give me a hard time about.
Mhm.
I think it comes down to the individual, but it's
It
fun
does.
for us to sit back and there's a British guy. Gosh, I wish I could remember his channel, but he has a really wonderful. He's a bald guy with glasses.
Oh, I know who you're talking. I can't remember his channel. I know who
Yeah,
you're
that
talking
guy's
about.
awesome, and he's like
Mhm.
he talks about such cool EDC stuff, and
Mhm.
a lot of it's like little electronic doodads and flashlights and things like
Yeah.
that. And he can't have any kind of locking knife in England.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, some of those more restrictive places, when people make video content for that,
Mhm.
it's pretty cool. It's pretty eye
Yeah.
opening. I feel bad they can't have all the stuff that we can
Yeah.
have necessarily, but they have had to get creative. Does that make
Yep.
sense? And in
Mhm.
that creativity, they've made some discoveries that I think are worthy of our attention, to how do I miniaturize things or
Mhm.
how do I solve certain problems when I can't carry certain things, not allowed
Right.
to? It's pretty cool to see what some of those things are and what they've come up with.
It is. It is. It really is. And I think with EDC, I think a lot of times people can they can get in the comparison game. Like they feel like they should do what this other guy's doing. But you really just have to look at your life. Like that's what got me into carrying a fixed blade every day. Because in
Yeah.
all fairness, for my life, what I do, this is a better tool for me. It just is across the board. I carry a folder every day too. Um, God help the poor thing if I forget to put my fixed blade in my pocket. But to me, like I have a farm. We're all the time. I'm all the time working on something. You know, I'm abusive to the poor things. I mean, I just really is. I mean, I've always made a joke like if it survives me, it'll survive anybody. It really will. Like if it will, and so I've learned like just through my own abuse. Well, I know like I may not can tell you like the molecular makeup of the steel or you know, which one holds a better edge, but I can tell you what's gonna be tough, and I can tell you what's tough and what's not. Like, that's the kinda the way I'd gauge it. Like, I don't like to carry things that I can break. Like, if I can break it, I don't really it's not really my jam, It's the fixed blade for me is really built out of more of a necessity. Like, I'll be honest with you, I don't know how my grandpa did it. He carried an old timer as long as I can remember, the same one. I'm talking for 30 years, the same old timer. Now that thing didn't have too much of a blade left the blades left by the time when he passed away, but I don't know how he did what he did with that little knife. Like, I would break that thing in, like, a day. It wouldn't last me a day. It just wouldn't. And so, I don't know, maybe it's just me being kinda reckless or whatever, but I like to see how tough something is. Like, how durable is it? I guess I'm just built out of like like a super practical mind for me. Like, what's the necessities for me, like to carry? Because it's just like I said, I carry so much crap all the time. And dang, I lost my back pockets. I had back pocket larceny from my chiropractor. He said, "You have gotta quit carrying stuff in your back pocket," because my back was saying jacked up all the time. I was having so much back pain. He said, "You gotta quit carrying." So I like to joke and say the chiropractor stole my back pockets. But, I mean, I had, wallet this thick and everything, and I just was having back pain all the time. And so then more stuff got migrated to my front pockets. But I should just develop a habit of, like, carrying a bag. That would be a better option. I just look at all your EDC stuff and I'm like, "Man, I wish I could do that."
Well, I don't
You like
carry all of it all the time. What I find is that I cycle through things.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So I'll carry one thing for a little while, and I'll carry something else, and part of it is so that I can speak somewhat intelligently about
sure.
whatever that thing is.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And part of it is too, like if somebody said, "Hey, man, if you could only have one knife," like
Mhm.
people love to give me those kinds of impossible to answer scenarios. Like,
Sure.
what if you could only have one
Oh, I
folder?
know.
Well, I don't know. Like,
I
I
don't
can't make,
know.
and
My
and
problem is all my knives I like so much, I don't know that I don't
yeah, I
wanna
don't
pick.
want to.
Oh, do you
Yeah,
have a
that's
favorite kid?
yeah. It's like yeah, it's variety is the
Yeah.
spice of life. But I will say, somebody said, okay, you have this big tub over here of all these fixed blades,
Mm,
right? And more tubs of just slam full of fixed blade knives. Like, what are you going to grab
yeah,
if you really need to do something? It's kind of like I know you're also a firearm guy too. Like, there's a saying that goes, "When you need a rifle, nothing else will do."
right.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So, pistol shotgun is not gonna,
Mhm.
you're not gonna be able to do what you need to do unless you need a rifle, you need a rifle. Well, when you need a knife, you need a fixed blade. I mean, when you
Yeah,
really need a knife, you need a fixed blade. So the question is like, if somebody says, "Well, I need to grab something that does everything and it's not too big, it's about the right size." This is a Taylor Grinds. I think it's a Halifax, I want to
that
say,
is the Halifax, yep.
and it's a rubber handle. This is basically like if
That's
you
the
need
knife right
to,
there.
yeah, this is it. This is my
Yeah,
go-to. Like if I need to do something totally gross, okay, and this is it. This is the
yep,
because it's not gonna slip. It's just a rubber handle.
mhm,
It don't glow in the dark. It doesn't do nothing fancy,
yep,
but it cuts. That
yep,
it does, right? So this is my go-to. Like everybody wants to know, like what kind of fixie are you
mhm,
grabbing? I'm grabbing this. And
yep,
there for a few years, it would have been a specific Bark River Lon Humphrey collab,
sure,
the Rustic
yeah,
Bravo or whatever it was. That was my go-to. This is a ride or die. But
yeah,
you know what backs this up? A 2 foot axe and a Sven saw sitting in my
yeah,
truck. Okay,
yep,
so a lot of people are like, is there a do-it-all fixed blade? And they go with like I don't know, an SE5
yeah,
or some kind of monstrosity. No, you need a small, nimble knife.
yep,
Okay, and then you need a saw and an axe. You
you
can't,
do,
you
yeah.
can't do everything with the fixed blade. I know people
No,
try
you
that
can't.
because it's fun,
Well,
but the fact of the matter is, it's
that's Dave Canterbury. We can thank Dave Canterbury for the one tool thing, and I know it's fun, and I know for some reason people like to beat their knife through pieces of wood, but it's really not the right tool for the job. Like, it's just not. Now, if a pinch, like you had to do like you didn't have your axe handle broke, it better be something severe. Like,
yeah.
if your axe handle broke, yeah, sure, you can split your small firewood with your knife. I've done it. I've done it mainly just to see if it, would break the knife, but the having the right tool for the job is the thing. There's not a one size fits all. There's not it's just you've gotta what works for you? What works for you? Do you spend your days in the office? Do you open a lot of packages? What do you do? Like, that dictates so much of, like, what are you gonna carry? Now, I have a ton of knives I don't carry because I like them. Good lord, I like it. I like knives. I wouldn't be doing this. But the fixed blade thing it's so, like, vast to me. Like, everything I've got licensed scalpels up here, little small, super sharp, this named correctly, the scalpel. It is the perfect little thing for the guy who just needs a sharp knife, a durable knife to open boxes with, to do small things with. It's like the perfect knife. It fits in your pocket, and it's like it brings fixed blade fun in a folder size. And so there's always something for people. It's just you gotta sort it out sometimes. Like what do you do? What do you do? And not everybody can carry around this in their pocket. They maybe wear dress pants. Maybe they can't carry that in their pocket everywhere. And so there's just finding out there is something that'll work. I don't
Yeah,
know. I enjoy this so much.
there's a going to town knife is this little NAFS Lander. Trying to remember which NAFS this is. It's like a
Yeah,
Lander 5. I don't, anyway, whatever. A friend, believe it or not, a friend gave this to me, and it is awesome. A little Ben Peterson design, I think it is, and
yeah,
it's got a little. And this is great because it's not like super pointy. It doesn't, if you pull this out in
yeah.
public, people are not going to run for the hills. Hopefully, so it's that kind of a thing. But I'll just say this: I've noticed that you know, I get that there's pride of ownership on things that
Yeah.
are really rare. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
Like if I reach over here and I pull out a rook, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, so that's cool. Okay,
Yeah.
but I don't. What draws me to this is not like a ha ha, I have one and you
Yeah.
don't. That doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
I understand the pride of ownership. I totally get that. But for me, it's like, man, this lock is
That's
super
super cool.
cool. Like I
Yep.
like the mechanism, the engineering that went into it.
Yep.
That's what does it for me. I don't care if everybody and their brother has one. I like
Yeah.
that for
You
what
like
it is.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is there's a pride of ownership. There's a
Mhm.
competitiveness sometimes into acquiring certain things, and I
Sure.
understand that and I get it. But I
Oh,
think
yeah.
at the end
I
of
do
the day,
too.
before we lose track of the hobby is, and I firmly believe that EDC should be for everybody. I don't
Yep.
care what your background is or any
Yep.
of that kind of stuff. I think that capability, right? Enjoying a hobby, whether it's, I'm into fixed blades or folders or
Mhm.
whatever it is, or into hanks or whatever, or I don't like knives. I just like fidget spinners. Fine. That's cool.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Right. But I would say that there's I don't like gatekeeping or any of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff,
Oh, I don't either.
Don't like people judging people for making
No.
purchases or buying certain things. I think that if you can enjoy this hobby and find a modicum of happiness in it,
Yeah.
right? With all the pressures of the world that we have, and I don't know what's World War III scheduled for tomorrow, right?
Is it?
We have all those kinds of things going on.
Oh,
If you can extract a little bit of enjoyment out of a little rubber bead that glows in the dark for seven
yeah.
bucks and that makes you happy and makes you smile, then nothing should keep you from that, right?
No.
If that's
Yeah.
the thing you like, don't make excuses for it, enjoy it. And I think that as a community, we need to be welcome to everybody. I don't care what your
Yep.
budget is. There's people that watch my show, they never buy anything and they never
Yep.
will. All they do
Yep.
is just win giveaways. Cool. Totally
Yeah.
good with that. I'll keep giving away knives. I don't care
Yeah.
because they're getting a little bit of enjoyment, or maybe they're learning
Yeah.
something. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not that much of an instructor. I do my
Yeah.
best, but I think the thing is the less gatekeeping,
Mhm.
less judging people for their choices, and
Oh, yeah.
more encouragement across the board, and
Yeah.
being welcoming. Because I think that's how a hobby thrives is the people that
Yep.
are into it are working
Mhm.
with the people that are trying to get into it. And I'll
Exactly.
tell you, that's been super helpful for me to have people that are
Mhm.
much more mature collectors than me
Yep.
say, hey Ben, have you tried this thing over here, or what do you think of that, or just give me their honest feedback on it.
Yeah.
And most of all, to have a box of their knives they really like
Mhm.
and set it on the table and say, hey, you
Yeah.
can you can plunder through there and see what you like and you don't like.
Mhm.
That is absolutely priceless. And
Yep.
that helps us be able to figure out, you know, I think getting it in your hand cuts through all the minutia and the
Mhm.
hype and all the social media stuff in the world and the
Yep.
slick marketing and the videos and all
Mhm.
that. It cuts right through that. When you hold that thing in your hand and you're like, this don't work for me, it
Yep.
just nullifies every bit of that.
Yep.
So the more we can help each other be able to hone our preferences
Mhm.
and help us find stuff like, hey man, there's a drop over there, a knife that you really
Yep.
wanted, or I found
Mhm.
one on Reddit for, half off, here's a
Yeah.
link,
Mhm.
more of that helping each other out, more being a community. And I think you and I need to work on that. We need
Mhm.
to we need to
Yeah.
do more stuff locally to
We
bring
do.
people in and
Yeah.
not selling necessarily, but
Yeah.
just like more socializing and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I need to do a better job of that myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, and it's one of those things where people it's until you well, until you experience the knife community, you don't really know. Like, when you meet like, that's what I love. Like, we had our first meetup here last year, the end of last year. I had so much fun just getting to meet people. Like, you meet people that are into what you're into. It's like, cars and coffee. Like, I think that is the most fantastic thing for the car community. Like, all these guys come together. You might have a Honda Civic or you might have a Lambo sitting there, and they might be sitting right next to each other, but everybody is just into cars. Like, that's what they're into. And I think that's something that's super easy to lose in this community where you have people like I loved what you said about people looking down on people for what they purchase. That is just poor. That's being a terrible person for one. That's just being a poor human. Like, there are people that, for one, they got they've got 10 kids and rent to pay and all this food to put on their table. They don't have but maybe 20 bucks left over that they can enjoy with that month. And good gosh, if that's what they let them get. I mean, quit judging people. Like, I mean, so many people that locals that come in here, they're walking in with a Kershaw 8 out of 10 times. Like, that is just the knife. That is, you can buy them at Walmart. That's just the knife people have, and sometimes that's all they can afford. You know, I've sold more Spyderco Tenacious, not $70 knives, and people they love it, and they come back for more of them. They want to buy their buddy one. And I love that. To me, that's just spreading the knife community. That's getting people into something cool. And there's always something for everybody. There's always a knife for you. There's always going to be something that will work for you. You don't have to spend 2 grand. You don't have to spend 400 bucks. You can spend 20 bucks. If that's all you got to buy a knife, then good Lord, there's something out there for you. And but I like when people will come in the stream and they'll say, "Oh, I can't afford to buy anything. I'm just hanging out." I'm like, "What? Hang out?" And some people come in and they're like, "I don't know what I want." Well, I'm like, "Hang out. Just watch. Just learn. Like something will come across and you'll be like, I really like that." Like it doesn't have to be this high pressure, super fast paced. Just watch. Just watch. There's always another one. You know, so it may not be another one of those, but there'll be something. You'll learn what you like. And I think that's a super valuable thing about Whatnot. If people slow down and they just watch and they learn and they find out what they like, less buyer's remorse, they get what they're after, everybody wins.
And
And so,
maybe there's a place too for the fast paced thing too. Like if I know kind of what I
100%.
want and
Yeah,
I'm waiting for that new
yeah,
Kaiser drop bear or I don't
sure.
know, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Or what have you. And so the faster pace, like
Yeah,
you're looking for a certain thing, you know what you want,
yep,
and you're just waiting for it to pop up. I think there's a place for that too. Not everybody wants
100%.
to dig into
100%.
glow in the dark beads for 45 minutes, and I
Yeah,
totally get that. So
yeah,
I think I think part of it is just, there's and sometimes some days I'm like, I
mhm,
want a chill experience, and
yep,
other days I'm like, I just want to see a whole bunch of stuff knives
yeah,
quickly show me.
for sure. Yeah,
And sometimes I have like a touch of ADD, maybe, I don't know, like it just
mhm,
one night I'm in a different mood, so I
100%.
find myself in one kind of stream, and then
Yeah,
I'm wanting something a little bit different. I'm in another kind of stream, and they're
yeah,
diametrically opposed, and that's
mhm.
fine. I think the key is that there's enough stuff out there. There's something for everybody,
There's
regardless
something
of
for everybody. Yeah,
yeah. And look,
well,
I carried a Kershaw Skyline. I mean that
yeah,
was my first. Like I had old timers and like Barlows and stuff.
mhm,
That's what I carried. Old timers case, and I discovered the Kershaw Skyline, which is now
yeah,
discontinued. And I thought, wait a minute, I can get this out of my pocket and I can deploy it in one hand,
yep,
cut something and close it and put it
yep,
away with one hand. What?
yep,
That was like
mhm,
sorcery, like so.
yeah,
Um, it was like 30 bucks. I mean,
yeah,
it was like
yeah,
really cheap. And I think I bought a Ken Onion, some kind of a chive or something at one point.
yeah,
I had like, and I started with Kershaw. Like
yeah.
I
Well, I'll
went
tell
from
you what,
old timer to Kershaw.
I
That's
have
where I went.
broken more leaks than I think anybody I have to have had. Like, those pointy blades, like, I love that. Like, back when I used to run a lot of cable, and, man, the leak because you could deploy it with one hand, it was super handy. Like, if you're on top of a ladder, you need to grab a knife, cut something, mainly because I dropped them all the time, and that the tip would hit the concrete or whatever. Whoop, there went the tip of that one, so yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. There's something for everybody in this hobby, and I like what you said about more get-togethers, more fun community. I mean, we do some cool stuff in Discord and stuff like that, but there's no replacement for being in person with people. It's good for you. It's good to get out of your house a little bit and have fun with people in real life.
And after
So,
all, I mean, I've been on with you for like an hour plus,
yeah.
and I have yet to say anything of any consequence. So, I mean, if you want to waste a bunch of time and talk about absolutely nothing, then I'm your guy. So, we can certainly do that in person or virtually. It doesn't
Oh,
make any
yeah. It
difference.
doesn't make any difference, but it is fun in person. It is it's hilarious. I don't so one of my biggest struggles, I know everybody's usernames, but I know very few people's real names, and so people will come up and introduce themselves, I'm like, "I have no idea who this is." Like, they've never turned their camera on in Discord or, like I don't know who you are. Like, I don't know your like, unless it's Benjamin Brewer, like, I don't know your name. Like, I can't remember. Like, I see the usernames all the time, but I don't know people's real names. And man, like at Blade Show, oh, it wrecked me. Like, people coming up introducing themselves, I'm like, "What's your username?" Like, "What's what's your username? I'll know you by that, but I" and, so, yeah, I have a terrible memory, but I know everybody's usernames, and so people quit changing your usernames. I won't know who you are.
Yeah,
So
I was in line at uh, California Custom Knife Show, and I was there by myself, and I met some people, and they're like, "Oh, I know who you are," and so I had some people that knew who I was,
Mhm.
and that was weird because
Yeah, it is weird.
that gave me a little bit of anxiety, because I like
Mhm.
not being known. That's awesome. Like
Yeah.
I would prefer just not to, if I could just not be on, if I could have got to the point where I was just like never on camera, just a disembodied voice, that would have been
Mhm.
the best because I have a face for radio and a voice for the written word anyhow. So, but at any rate, I guess I have to be on for the app. I
Yeah.
have to be on there so they can see it's a human they're dealing with, I suppose. But the long and the short of it is, it was weird to get
Oh, it's weird.
recognized somewhere. That was very, very strange. But
Mhm.
we had a young lady there that's like, I want to buy a knife for my fiance as a gift. Okay. And he, by the way, is at the front of the line, and I'm back here, at spot number 50. She was, and I was unlucky on the draw. But she's like, I want to get him something nice. What should I get him? And she was telling us her budget stuff. And so the bunch of knife weirdos, here we
Mhm.
are helping this
Yeah.
young lady, and we are like crowdsourcing this thing like you wouldn't believe, and like, oh, that's a nice knife. Anybody here got one of those? And the guy will be like, I got one in my pocket. Okay, cool, come here. Like, yeah, this. What about
Mhm.
this one? And that kind of stuff. One guy had actually a box of knives with him. That he was trying to sell. We went through that whole thing. And after it was over with, she kind of gave me the thumbs up. It was supposed to be a surprise for him, and
Yeah.
she was like, I was like, trying to signal, did you get the
Mhm.
thing you were looking for? And she goes, yeah. And I was like, right on. So we crowdsourced it. We helped her
Yeah.
out with what she was trying to find. I hope we did. Anyway, we may have just confused her. I don't know, but we tried. But it's that kind of thing. I thought to myself, this is what it's about. Like,
Mhm.
somebody asks questions or something.
Yeah.
Now is the time for us to let our weird little hobby,
Yeah.
let it kind of shine. And I have people come to me all the time that say, I have people come to my stream and say, I have $30. I need a
Yep.
knife for work. And I'm like, okay. I make sure that I keep stuff in that price
Mhm.
range. That's the best stuff I can possibly
Yep.
get together. Sometimes I sell it at a loss if that's what it
Yeah.
takes. But I think the thing about it is everybody's got something different they're trying to get out of it,
Yep.
and I just think it's important that we be welcoming to everybody that we
Yep.
can, and try to grow the thing, um, and just not gatekeep, be kind,
Yep.
be helpful,
Mhm.
and be useful,
Yep.
and if we can do those things, then try to leave the world and the hobby
Yep.
itself a little bit better than you found it. If you pull that off,
Yep.
you've made it.
You accomplished something. Yep. Well, this was fun. We went an hour and 15 minutes of just yakking.
Yeah, I still hadn't said anything at all. I don't know what, I can't even remember what we talked about for an hour, but so be it. I hope your viewers know that they're probably all thinking, who is that guy? And that is an excellent question. I don't know. But I think you typically have like much luminary guests, but then one of your one of your buddies on here,
Yeah.
but I wasn't
Oh,
doing
that's what makes it
anything,
fun.
and neither were you. So
I think we
we
should do
were,
more I think we should do more of these. Talk about talk about knives, and it doesn't always have to be about one thing. It doesn't have to be anything we even sell. It doesn't really matter to me. Um, let's see, I was looking through the chat real quick before we end, see if anybody had any
there's
questions here.
people watching this.
Apparently, a few. I
I
like
don't
this what
believe it.
Benjamin Brewer said, "Small maker stuff has soul. It's like eating your grandma's from scratch lasagna or Stouffer's frozen lasagna. Stouffer's ain't bad per se, but it's not like grandma's." That's right. That can be the case for sure.
And I think
I think
sometimes
you messed
imperfections are good too. Like there's something about grandma's dish that she makes lasagna in that's like
yeah.
38 years old. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
And maybe full
And
of a little bit of radiation and stuff too.
it's got a little chip on the corner, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But it's like, but for some reason,
Yep.
that makes the best lasagna. And it's kind of
Yep.
hard. Like my grandmother could pull off the best fried bologna sandwich you ever had in your
Yeah.
life. You know, she had a cast iron pan that was like, I don't know, a gazillion years old.
Yep.
I mean, that cast iron pan probably came over on the Mayflower. I mean, you know, but it
Yeah.
made like somehow there was a
Mhm.
there was a alignment of the constellations to create the best, you know,
Mhm.
fried bologna sandwich you've ever had. You know, so I get it's. I think that custom. I think what it is that the more, you know, I guess hand hand tooled and handwork there is that imparts more of that
Yeah.
maker into it rather than I'm pressing the button on a CNC machine. Although there's nothing
100%.
wrong with that because
Yeah.
you know there's certainly the design intent is still there. Don't get me wrong. So I'm not trying to
Yep.
besmirch that at all. But yeah, it makes I think it's 100% correct.
Um, let's see. We had Mr. Mouse here. I lost it. Oh, here we go. He says, "Journey and hunt is as fun as the acquisition." That
Yeah.
is very true. That's a very true thing. I like that. And you
I think
messed
some of
Axiom
the
up a little bit.
well some of the stuff that you end up with like you ever find like you work really hard to get that to find that knife, and then there's a
Mhm.
story that goes along with it. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think that's the cool part is like, what is the story of how did I get this thing? You know, like
Mhm.
how did I manage to like this? This has a heck of a story. This is a denim overkill,
Oh,
and
yeah.
there's like a 20-minute story that goes along with like how did I
Mhm.
get this thing and why did I get this thing and how did I
Mhm.
know that I wanted it and all these other questions. This thing came from California, by the way, this particular one. Um, and I can't even begin to tell you how well this thing was packed. It was insane.
Yeah.
But like this kind of things, like I didn't know I wanted it until I saw one that I picked up for somebody else, and then I had to have it, and so the
Mm.
journey began to get my own. That's the kind of thing where you know that's what's special about is like
Mhm.
who was I with when I was waiting in line to get that thing? You know what I
Yep.
mean? And like, or who found it for me and said, "Hey Ben, I know you've been looking for X Y Z. I found it." You know, my buddy has one. You know, like my rook was actually a friend of mine, Corey Newton helped me get this.
Mhm.
So I would not have got this without Corey's help, you know.
Mhm.
So that's cool, you know, because
Yeah.
there's a story that goes with that. I wouldn't have got it without the help of a friend. So I think that's pretty important, like how you have those relationships and the story that
Mhm.
goes. It's not just about the thing itself; it's also how the journey was part
Yeah.
of it.
Yep. I think you messed up Tyler a little bit. He says, "I've been blessed to go play with a massive knife collection. It's changed my perspective on knives." So you messed him up a little bit, Ben.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. Um, well, I think like simultaneously, what happens is I will save you money, but I will cost you money. It's
Yep.
weird. It's like I'm the best and worst, you know, when it comes to that kind of thing.
I know.
Yeah,
I've got DH here. DH is a good dude. He says, "I have knife shows in my living room. I forget what I have." Dude, that is my life. I find stuff in this building that I had no idea I even had. Like, it just completely like we'll be arranging stuff and I'll find $2,000 worth of knives. I didn't even know it was here. Sitting underneath the Condor box or something. Oh me. Well, this is the best comment. That's why Jason and Ben are my favorites. See, we can be somebody's favorites. Isn't that
I think
awesome?
did my wife do that? Put
No, that was
that comment
Benjamin
in
Brewer.
there.
That's Benjamin Brewer.
Well, I would say that I don't know if I'm necessarily anybody's favorite per se, but I think, I am hashtag not a real knife dealer. Jason is,
Oh,
but I
you
think what I'm here for is I'm on my journey. Let's put it that way, right?
yeah,
I'm on the journey to learn what I can about EDC, and so I started off by watching. My start was watching like 300 hours of YouTube videos, just
sure, yeah,
absorbing, and then reading stuff on Reddit, Blade
mhm,
forums, any information that I could absorb,
yeah,
about the history of this guy used to work for this maker, and then they split off, and then this guy formed this company,
mhm,
like all that kind of stuff. And then that's why that design looks so similar, to
yep,
this other thing. Or these guys are friends. That's why their knives look so
mhm,
similar. The liner lock looks similar because of this reason.
yeah,
That's the kind of stuff that I find fascinating is that. And the great thing about knives is that the regulatory aspect of most folders and fixed blades is such that I can't purchase a firearm or something like that
yeah,
necessarily and just have it shipped to my
your
mailbox,
door, yeah,
but I can do that with
unfortunately,
other things. And also I can easily sell it because it's not so highly regulated. I can sell
yep,
this fixed blade. I will
yep,
never sell this fixed blade for the record, but
yeah,
if I wanted to, if I had any inclination, I could do so, and I could just ship it to somebody,
yeah,
and that kind of thing. So that appealed to me,
mhm,
and being a dealer, it's able to order things in and be able to look at it, and a lot of the stuff. Well, in the early days, I would order things and I would look at it and say, that's terrible. I will not
yeah,
be selling that.
yeah,
I'm not going to mention, I'm not going to
sure,
tell
yeah,
you all
yeah,
what
yeah,
that was, but I'm just like, I would look at something and say, oh, this is horrible bad. Like I
yep,
thought it was going to be a lot better, and it is not. And some of those things
mhm,
were a lot more expensive than you would guess,
yep,
just things that just did not, just didn't make the cut. Um, but I think that when it comes to, this thing also, I think the collaborative stuff like what we've done with me and you and Taylor, I
yeah,
think that's a good,
that's a lot of
uh
fun.
yeah,
That is
it's a
just
lot
so
of
much
fun.
fun.
uh Not, no one individual of us is as dumb
Yeah.
as all three of us together, so like when when we combine our forces of dumb,
Yep,
we can exponentially,
yep,
but I had some crazy ideas about some stuff that that I wanted to do, and with your help and
yeah,
obviously Taylor's help, we made those dumb dreams come true.
oh, sh
But there's a lot of other stuff that we can do
yeah,
that I think will be compelling and cool, and do something different. I think it
yeah,
has value. I talk about how these things are silly, but the fact of the matter is that this is an amazing knife.
it
The
is,
handle material is very cool. It has a practical implication,
mhm,
and so we're making things that are different,
yep,
but they're also compelling, and I
yep,
think that I'm proud of. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, right? And I hope I don't, because I'm going to avoid buses, but if I do, I'll have the Edgemont, and
yep,
I'll have some other exclusives I worked on, but I'll have that Katuo,
yep,
the two Katuos that I did, and nothing can undo that,
yep,
and I have plans for many, many more.
yeah,
So hopefully, I will be able to earn to continue my existence
yeah,
as a dealer by bringing good stuff. And but I'll tell you, man, I'm impressed every time I go to your shop, man. I'm telling you, there's so much good stuff in that shop. I must have been annoying you the other day when we launched the Edgemont, because I was like, man, Jason hadn't shown this thing in a while. I was over there digging through boxes,
yeah,
and there's so much heat there,
yep,
man. I could spend so much money
yep,
in that little 10-foot area around where you're sitting. It ain't even funny, man. I could do some
I
damage in that store.
yeah, I think part of my problem is I'm in here every day, and so I sometimes I just miss things, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I completely miss it, and so and I get really zeroed in on some stuff sometimes. It's kind of my the thing I tell you what, it's a very hard thing to do by yourself.
Yeah.
Like, running a show by yourself is really, really difficult. I mean, I've adapted to it somewhat, but it is not easy. That is not easy. It is very like, I miss the chat so bad. If I wasn't for Hoppy and some of those other guys helping with the chat and stuff, like, I would miss so much. Like, they're all the time hide chatting, like, "Hey, don't forget about this," or I've got Discord behind me playing, so they can say, "Hey, don't forget about getting that dude that knife," because it's just I get so focused on it's all I can do. I'm operating on the limit. I'm operating at the past my limits of ability.
Yeah.
It is so I'm like, man. But I've tried to hire somebody to come help, but it's nobody wants to be in here at the hours. I mean, you know, it's not a it's not very conducive to somebody wanting to work. They'd rather watch the show or they'd rather, play with some knives or do something fun.
Well, I roped my wife into it. And so if it weren't for her, there's no way. Like
Yeah.
it's I don't see how you do it, to be honest with you. Like it mystifies. I've seen you do it, and I'm just like, man, there's a lot going on, So it's
I
like
mess up
watching.
sometimes.
Well, we do too. We try not to, but it's hard to see everything that's going on in the chat and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's not as easy as it looks. Then the
It
crazy
is
thing
not.
about it is how much of it's like what you see on stream is probably 20% of the effort, easily,
Okay.
maybe less than
Yeah.
that, probably.
Mhm.
Everybody's like, it makes it look pretty chill. You pipe in some music and you sit there and you're like,
Mhm.
hey, here's this knife, buy this thing.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, like, you have to source this thing, and that's not easy. And then there's just
Mhm.
so much to do, and then you have to fulfill the orders and so forth.
Mhm.
So, you know, we we have all the work that we can stand.
Mhm.
Like we will not be increasing the
No.
amount that we stream. If I can actually go down to 2 times a week, if I can figure out how to do that and still do everything that we need to do, I'll happily do so. But yeah, it's just a lot. And so
And
we
then the
go
shipping.
into yeah, well,
Oh.
well, we go to what Angela has the signal she'll give me when we've sold enough stuff, and she's like, like that, and it's like, okay, guys, well, we're gonna wrap up,
Yeah.
she's like, we don't want to pack any more than we got, and it's like, okay, we're done. And that the great thing about this is, I can't think of any other business that we
Mhm.
could do that we could say, hey, we've got too much going on,
Yeah.
so we're just gonna turn everything off for 2 weeks. We're gonna fulfill our orders, and we're not gonna work for. We're just not gonna have a show for 2 weeks. I did that recently. 2 weeks didn't have a show, and so that was that I needed. I had stuff to do. I just
Yeah.
couldn't do it. I can't think of very many businesses where you could
Mhm.
just shut things off and come back in 2 weeks and just pick
Yeah.
up where you left off. So, in terms of flexibility, it's good. However, it is way more difficult than it looks because,
Yeah.
like, ordering things, trying to pick a winner all the time. If you're a small business, you have to knock a home run
Mhm.
every time you get up to the plate.
Yep.
You can't fail, like, ever.
Yep.
You fail, it's the end. You're done.
Yep.
So
It's
that's the
very
every
true,
order.
and
Every order.
it's a, and too, like and when you're working with small companies or small makers, like, people don't realize, like, they'll buy a knife from me, and then maybe they'll go buy a knife from one of the makers. Well, they don't realize what happened to get the knives to actually get to my shop, and how many, like, "Oh, we're running late. I'm running late. it's gonna be 2 more weeks. It's gonna be," which happens. I get it, but they don't know all that because the knife is here, and so people can get really frustrated really quick because I'm kinda that you become that, like, buffer. You're the buffer between the artist, which possibly is not the best business person. Most artists aren't. Maybe they're not the best at business or communication, and I really do understand that a lot, and so learning how to navigate that, but people they'll get super frustrated. They're gonna place an order with the maker and be like, "Yep, good luck."
Yeah. 6 months later.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is, I think what you're doing specifically with Ridge Runner blades is very, very special because I don't know anybody else that will do all the things required to be able to
Yeah.
work with a small maker and to be able to represent it well, be able to juggle all the things that
Mhm.
you need to juggle in order to be able to source that kind of thing. It's very, very tough to do that. It's not like going to a wholesaler and then just
No.
adding it to your cart and it shows up, a
Mhm.
few days later. It's not like, filling out a spreadsheet and going direct to a manufacturer. It's
Mhm.
very, very difficult. And I know, and it's also kind of thing where it's like, well, you know, if I'm looking at a machine made knife,
Yeah.
that's made on a machine, it's like, well, that looks really good. Why would I want to buy one that doesn't look quite as
Yeah.
refined? Well, let me tell you, you get that thing in your hand, it's a whole
Mhm.
different ball game because
Yep.
it's like, wow, nobody makes a knife that has this proportions. Nobody
Mhm.
makes a knife that has this kind of a handle, but it has a blade
Yep.
profile like this that's so slicey.
Mhm.
And I mean, a lot of the knives made by, Taylor Grinds and Primitive
Mhm.
Woodsman and Fire Creek Forge and those, I mean, they're
Mhm.
eminently useful, and
Oh, yeah.
nobody makes
100%.
exactly anything quite like that. You
Yep.
can't get a production knife that's that good and that
Yeah.
has, I will say, that is purpose driven. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
So that's very, they're special and they cost a little bit more.
Mhm.
And people look at that
Oh,
and
yeah.
say, I don't want to pay the extra amount. Well, you get what you pay for. And
You get
so
what you pay for.
you get what you pay for, and especially when it comes to a domestically produced
Mhm.
knife, somebody put their, like you said, part of their life into it.
Mhm.
Um, it's no small thing. So I think what you're doing is different. You're not just ordering knives. There's nothing wrong with
No.
ordering
No.
knives and selling them, but what you're doing, unless you're in the business, like I'm in the
Mhm.
business,
Mhm.
I think it's hard for most people to appreciate how difficult
It
how hard it is to do what you're doing at Ridge Runner
Yeah.
Blades. It is extremely difficult.
Yep.
I do it on a smaller scale with different things, different kinds of products. So I know I don't do to
Mhm.
the extent that you do, but I get it.
Yeah.
I do it enough to understand. So, but that's a very special thing. I hope people appreciate. I know
Oh,
people they
they
don't
do,
know
for
enough to
sure.
know. I think some people that know appreciate.
Yeah.
They're like, dang, I can't believe I haven't seen one
Yeah.
of those for sale for 2
Yeah.
years, and Jason's got 4 of them. How did you
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah.
Like, and when people see that kind of stuff, it's not the kind of thing to say, "Well, I'll just wait till the next batch."
Yeah.
There may not be
Oh,
one
yeah.
anytime soon.
It's like this. I think I only got one of these left. You
Yeah,
get a Jason Knight made by the dude, like, that's not easy to get. Like, you don't just get a knife made by Jason Knight willy-nilly. Like, that's not and I love that about this business. I love it.
yeah,
Like, being able to work with, like, people like Jason and, you know, Josh and Taylor and Elijah, and Corey, and all the others. It's so cool. I was just at Gehagen today, and
mhm,
he's showed me something that's coming down the pipeline, he's been working on for me, and I just looked at it, and the pure amount of time that it took to hand polish these things, all hand polished, is nuts. Like, it
yeah.
is crazy, and I'm like, "Holy cow, that is so cool." Like, it's just so cool. I love it. It's
Like,
so
here's the brand new JB6
mm,
by Johann Vanderwalt. This man makes 12 knives a month. That's it. So, like, if
mm,
like, do you know the next time he's going to make one that has this ivory? I don't. I've never
maybe not.
seen one before.
Yeah,
So, like, if
that
you
thing's
want this
sick.
thing, you better bid on it. It's that, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? It's kind of hard to explain that to people. Like, oh, you want
yep,
one with red dark matter? Okay, I've got,
yeah,
but that's the thing is like they just don't. And I mean, this one's super cool because it actually has the top roll, which
yeah.
I'm not able
I
to.
I can't do that.
I can do it. It's just the issue is
Oh,
I am I'm just not able to do it tonight for some reason. I guess I'm trying to hold it up to the camera or something. But yeah, it does have a top roll on it. It works really well. I'm just not. I think it's just really late, and I'm just.
It is really late.
But yeah, it does have a front roll provision on it, which is super
Yeah.
cool. And then the video just went out, so I just did it, but
You're
then
good.
the video went out. Awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
It
anyway, the
really
point.
happened.
So, but yeah, this kind of stuff is pretty cool, and it's hard to get, and it's very limited production kind of stuff, and
I know. I
and
love that stuff.
yeah, you just
So
can't.
I haven't understood yet the relationship, like Three Dog, Vanderwalt. There's another one too, right? Is there 3 makers, South
There's
African
two.
makers?
So there's Three Leg Dog is Ryan Manser,
Mhm.
and that there's a shop in Johannesburg, and I believe that um, Johan Vanderwalt and Ryan Manser, who's Three Leg Dog, they share this similar shop space or the same shop
Mm.
space. So, but they make knives that are somewhat similar. Um, there are definite design differences, materials,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that kind of thing. But they are custom knives, and they are, largely, it's amazing the amount of hand fitting and so
Oh.
forth that goes on. Actually, on that knife that you have right there, you can see that it has like it looks like there's inlay on the pivot collar.
Oh,
Believe it
yeah.
or not, the way that's actually made is that is inlaid in the G10. It's inlaid inside the G10, and then there's like it's a router. It's a cut. It's
Mhm.
like a countersunk, and then there's like a little collar, a stainless steel collar that sits in there, and then the pivot screws into it. But that's all one piece. When you take that out, it doesn't come all apart.
Yeah.
It's all together. Like that camo carbon is actually inlaid inside the G10.
So
It comes
yeah.
out in one piece. It's crazy. I don't even know how he does that. Like
Well,
it.
I will tell you, like, inlays are one thing. When people do inlays, it's something I really look at because, like, building guitars, you're always inlaying stuff, and a dude that can do inlay work, that is very difficult. That is a very, very difficult thing. Even using machinery, it is very difficult. Even using CNC, it can be very difficult. And dude, the inlay on this knife is perfection.
Yep.
Like, it's perfect. Especially when you're working with synthetic materials. See, when you're working with wood, you can go back and backfill a little bit, even with, like, glue, basically what they use is glue and sawdust, like really fine sawdust, and you can't see it. When you're working with synthetic materials, there's 0 forgiveness,
Yeah.
and you will see
Yes.
everything. This thing is literal perfection. Even this is another thing that tripped me out about this knife, and I can't show it on camera, but even the angle at which he cut for the pocket clip to go in,
Yeah.
like, that's not level. He did it straight with the curvature of the knife. That is there's some, like, nutty stuff going on with this thing that doesn't, like, you don't realize until you really start looking at it. Um,
And nobody else does it. That's the thing. Like that,
not
I haven't seen
not that I've
anybody
seen
else
like
do
this.
anything like it. Yeah,
'Cause,
it's
like I said, I know, like, I know how hard that is. That is not that is a somebody that is extremely good at what they do. And it's like this Jason Clark. This is my favorite folder of all time. I love this knife. I really, really like it. I saw it when you first got it in. I'm like, oh, gosh, I gotta get that thing. It's just I carried a 940 forever.
yeah,
Benchmade 940. That was one of my first nice pocket knives. I carried that thing for years. Still have that. Still have it. But this thing reminds me so much. This is like the best. This was. This is blast. Please, I hope he never hears this. This is the nicest 940 I've ever had in my hand. It's a ladder lock. It's not crossbar lock, but this thing, I love this size, the feel, how slim it is, but it fits. It's just perfect. I love this knife. I mean, it is. This is one of my favorite knives I've ever owned. I mean,
yeah. He
and
he
so
does. He has some grip tech material. I'm not exactly sure which grip tech it is,
yeah.
but he's got some grip tech material. And man, I'm telling you, the knives he makes that are kind of like that, which is like the
Mm.
sort of the reverse tanto, but he also makes a just a drop point. version of that you also have that reverse flick provision
Yeah,
there too. That is, it's like um, it's a grip tech material. Gosh, man,
yeah,
it is. It feels so good, and I think part of it is like, yeah, um, it doesn't. It's not a drop shut, but I'll be on. But as a working knife, I kind of don't want a
material,
drop
yeah,
shut
yeah,
on a working knife. And
yeah,
those knives are made to where, I mean, this is a beautiful knife by Johan,
yeah,
but this is made like Johan wants you to use this thing. He's like, I
yep.
want you to carry this. I want you to, use it. It's made to use. Um, and that's the thing. Like a lot of these they look like artwork, but they're
I use the
certainly,
crap out of mine. This thing just wigs me out. It's just so
yeah.
awesome.
So
I'll tell you,
that's a Roush bearing. So Roush, that's
yeah,
where Ryan Manser. That's a three-leg dog. So he sources
yeah,
that from Roush. That's a Roush caged ceramic bearing. Is my understanding. And Roush is a knife maker in his own right,
mhm.
actually.
Oh, yeah, he is.
But he makes those materials, and a lot of my understanding is South African knife makers and use those. I mean, there's a lot of talented knife makers in South Africa. There's
Yeah,
Arno Bernard. There's Andre de Villers. There's obviously Ryan Manser and Johan van der Walt. There's many, that are really wonderful knife makers in South Africa. It's a very competitive thing. So
I'll tell you
really good.
what's wild about this knife to me, one of my favorite aspects of it is it's literally a frame lock is what this is, but it's a hidden I don't is that what you call it, hidden frame lock?
I don't know. Maybe it's subframe lock. I don't know
But
what the
look how he cut that G10 for that frame to go in. I'm telling you, this is one of the most perfect knives I have ever owned.
yeah.
It's perfect. Like, there's not it's not perfect anymore. I've beat the crap out of it. So it's got hay. I just pulled some hay out of it a minute ago. So, so it's not perfect anymore. But I mean, I'm saying as far as it's just crazy. One thing I think people miss out on is beads.
Yeah.
Beads, lanyards on your knives. If we're even fixed blades, people are like, why do you have that bead on there? Have you ever been trying to get your knife out of your pocket and you can't, like, you're trying to find it, you're focused, you're holding something, you need your knife? That bead is like the perfect index. Like, find my knife. I can find it perfect every single time. I
Yeah.
could
And
talk
like
about this stuff all night.
it can help you also when it comes to if you're drawing the knife out of a, like, let's say
Yeah.
you've got a sheath and it's pretty,
Mhm.
it's covers up quite a bit of the knife.
Yep.
So when you come back, you just kind of
Yep.
grab onto that with your pinky, and it helps you draw it. And it's a
Yeah.
good index point, so if you're not drawing it where you're kind of putting your
Yep.
hands on the sharp bits there. So the placement of that bead could be an index point to make sure
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't hurt yourself as you draw it. So that's a really good aspect of it. And also, if they glow in the dark, you can find it across the
Yeah.
room, find it across the campsite if you drop it in the weeds or something. There's just a lot of great aspects of that.
Yep.
And reactive knives have really, good purpose to them. This
Yep.
is not actually ivory. I don't know if you can tell, but it's very UV reactive.
Holy cow.
So, little stuff like that. Everything he sent me, he also makes some titanium frame ones now too, which I
Mhm.
should have waited and hooked you up with a titanium one. You couldn't hurt it, maybe. I don't know. Maybe you could scratch up. I don't want to I don't want to
Challenge
underestimate.
accepted.
I don't want to underestimate your ability to jack one up, but I mean, that's why they make these things,
Yeah.
And it's funny. I was at California Custom Knife Show and I bought a knife for my wife, and it was a Holt Morpheus. It's absolutely beautiful. It's like purple and mirror finish blade and everything else, and I was like, I told Angie Holt, I was like, this is for my wife. I'm so excited about it. And, she saw a picture of it on Facebook. She's back home in North Carolina and she's looking,
Mhm.
she saw it. She's like, ooh, I really like that. And she's like, but don't buy it for me. You don't need to buy it. I'm happy with my cheap knives. And I was like, oh no, I can read between I've been married a minute. I can read
Mhm.
between the lines. I better go back in there and get that for her. So I did. And Angie's like, as I was buying it, she's like, "Listen, I hope she carries it. Like
Mhm.
if she ever scratches it up or something like that. I'll re-anodize it. I'll fix it up." And I thought that's pretty cool. I mean, even
Yep.
something as quite frankly fancy as a Holt, right?
Bougie. Bougie.
but it's bougie. Yes, very
Bougie.
bougie.
Yeah.
Even something like that, like the maker wants you to use it. They want you to
Yeah.
enjoy it. And, something sitting on a pedestal, there's a certain amount of pride of ownership. And as you walk by, you can look at it or something like
Mhm.
that. But there's nothing quite like
Yeah.
carrying it in your pocket. Pocket time is the best way to enjoy a knife. Now,
Oh, yeah.
I have a whole bunch of plastic cases and stuff that I can pull a knife out of and
Sure.
show it like, oh look, there's my Strix,
Yeah.
Greg Shop custom made Strix, damtanium, inlays on both sides. Cool. I carry it. I'll throw this in
Mhm.
my pocket and I will go to the Piggly Wiggly, whatever. I don't
Mhm.
know, wherever I go, the post office, and leave it in the truck before I go in the building, but I'll take
Yeah.
it with me. I will go to the wall of marts with this bad boy in
Mhm.
my pocket, because I enjoy it. And and there, again, there's the whole purpose of buying these things is to carry them,
Yep.
and it could be that, could be a brown, you know, mini FSD. I don't know, like whatever strikes my fancy.
So the real question is, though, what in the world did you buy at Carolina Custom Knife Show that you had to buy your wife a Morpheus to cover it up?
Well,
That's
that's
the
an
real
excellent
question.
question.
What were you
Um,
disguising?
so probably
Oh, there you go.
a
See?
a
Now it
custom
comes out.
Kirby Lambert.
Holy
That
cow.
might be
That might have been
that could
it.
be that could
Part
be
of it.
it. Or it could have been that. It could have also been the whole
Could've been
outlaw.
yeah,
That's a
could've been it.
possibility. It could have been that. If it wasn't that, it could have been the NCC
Yeah.
Ragnarok. I suppose it could have been that. I don't know. It could have been one of those. But that was all. I didn't buy a ton of stuff at there. What I do is, and I don't buy much in between the
Mhm.
shows. Like I my weirdness has gotten to a level now where it's like I don't buy a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just that I'm like, okay, there's these three, and I've been
Mhm.
looking for them for a few months. They're going to be at the show.
Mhm.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, that's part of it. And you know, um, but and I sold some other stuff to be able to make that happen.
Oh, don't you don't have to do that. You
So yeah, you do. So like some things come in and then some
Yeah,
things gotta go.
yeah,
You can't just keep, at some point I will run out of things I want to sell
yep,
that I'm able to part with. Right now that's not a problem. It's just I can sell off
mhm,
enough stuff to deal with that and we're good. But at some point I'm gonna get to the point where it's like, man, I don't want
yeah,
and then the purchases are gonna slow way
way
down
down.
to like this 6 month period, I bought this one knife,
Yeah,
and that's okay. That's what I could afford to do. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I'm not can't go wild. You just you have the things you want to keep, and but I hopefully I'll be able to. It will evolve enough to where I'm like, hey, I enjoyed these knives for a little
mhm,
while. Now I can move them on,
yeah,
and that's going to allow me to be able to purchase other things. I can't just go into acquisition mode. I know some guys that are like, I have they'll say, "Well, I have six of these and five of those," and I can't do that. I get one of something. You know what I
yep,
mean? So like for example, I bought, I received this Anso Toko. So this Anso Toko um, goes. So
yeah,
this is the old one that I have. So I have to sell this one. You know what I mean? I just can't keep everything. It's not feasible.
yeah,
So sometimes you just have to let things go, but that's okay because I got to enjoy it. And for a while, I learned something from it, and
mhm,
now it gets to go to the next person. So, and I
yeah,
take really good care of my stuff. So,
yeah,
it's pretty
that's
much
my problem is I don't. And so resale value of my stuff diminishes rapidly. It's that, the saying like, "Oh, you lose so much percentage when you drive a new car off the lot." The knife loses so much value when I own it, when I unbox
so
it.
the hay doesn't enhance the value. It's
No,
not
it
a perk.
doesn't. It doesn't. I don't think. I don't think. But, well, dude, this is we're knocking on 2 hours now. If we don't shut it down, we ain't ever going to.
Time to roll. I
Time to
got
roll.
sleep
I appreciate you
to
hanging out.
accomplish.
And
Uh,
guys, make sure you go over and check out Ben over on Instagram. He's Everyday Gear on Instagram and his Whatnot stream. He streams he has a fantastic crowd and he has really cool stuff and you can actually buy it, which is really cool. So it's really cool. This stream you can't really buy anything, but on that stream you can. So when's you stream? What's your normal stream schedule?
Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time.
There you go.
As we didn't stream tonight, but you know, as time allows, that's when we
Yeah.
typically stream, 2 to 3 nights a week, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, our Everyday Gear company on Instagram, I think, and Everyday Gear
Mm.
on all one word on Whatnot. But I'll just say, you know, I'm nothing without my customers. I have the best
Yeah.
customers on the app. There's no, and there's in my,
Mhm.
I'm a little bit biased maybe, but I feel like my group of customers that show up every
Yeah.
stream are the nicest. They're kind. They're so kind to each other, and they're very kind to me. And so I owe them everything. If it wasn't for the customers, I wouldn't have any purpose here.
Yep.
You know. So I appreciate their support. It's very humbling. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way. That
There's a lot of
people
Canadian
actually
fighting going
tune
on.
in.
Mm.
So
There's a lot of Canadian fighting going on.
yeah, there's a little just some Canadian fights. But I
Ben,
appreciate you.
thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you. Well, let me hit end.